If you are constantly acting over and over and over again, it's exhausting. You will burn yourself out. How many articles have we read lately about HR fatigue? The problem is human behavior. When you constantly consider your actions, you screw up. You have to learn how to play your own music, or people will tell that you are not playing the genre that you shouldn't be playing. Here's a quote I love. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. That's a Mark Twain quote. And that's what we should all be striving to do. If we are faking it, we will fail eventually.
This is the Rebel HR Podcast, the podcast where we talk to HR innovators about all things people leadership. If you're looking for places to find about new ways to think about the world of work, this is the podcast for you. Please subscribe from your favorite podcast listening platform today and leave us a review. Rebel on, HR Rebels.
I'm really excited for this episode. You may know Kyle from the Rebel HR Podcast. 2-3 years ago, Patrick and I appeared on his podcast, and now we're sort of returning to pay the favor with this. But I had to reach out to Kyle when I saw his Disrupt HR presentation. And I'm not saying this because I know Kyle or anything. I think this is one of the top Disrupt HR presentations I've seen. And I think as of the last 2 weeks, it still has been the top 5 list since it got released 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, however long it's been. So congrats on that. So
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Kyle, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and about Rebel HR and jump in from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Warren, it's awesome to be hanging out with you. Feathers, it's great to meet you, man. I had Warren and at the time Patrick on the podcast way back when. This was like the middle of COVID quarantine. I was sitting in my basement, hadn't left the house for like 3 weeks. You know, it was like the outlet, and it was a much needed outlet. And I'm glad you guys are still doing your thing and sharing the truth of HR, which we'll probably be talking about that here in a little bit. But you know, myself, I'm an HR professional by complete accident. I fell into it like everybody else where, you know, you weren't a complete and utter jerk and they're like, oh, you're good with people, go do HR because that person just got fired. That's pretty much how I fell into it. So, oh, by the way, we need to hire 90 people for the holiday season. Can you figure that out for us? Thanks, Kyle. So that was my trial by fire. And since then, it's, you know, I just haven't left despite trying to a couple different times, but very fortunate in my career that I get to work for an organization called CPM as the Vice President of Human Resources, international firm, super cool, super fun, great team. Got to essentially build the department from scratch, which was fun.
Nice.
But then this thing happened called COVID, and actually, you know, I was so isolated. I was the only HR professional running the COVID quarantine response, pretty small company. So I was me, and I needed an outlet. I needed people to talk to. I needed people to bounce ideas off of. And I needed to make sure that I wasn't completely losing my mind sitting at home. And so we, myself and a couple other local HR professionals, Molly Burdess and Patrick Moran, who are my on again, off again co-hosts, started Rebel HR. And the entire idea was, how do we deal with disruption? How do we manage through the things that always happen in HR, the shit that we can't figure out, plan for, and it's not on a strategic plan somewhere. And from there, we interview guests every week. I'm just so thrilled at the quality of guests that we've been able to connect with.
Right.
And for me, it's like just an opportunity to just listen, learn, ask all the dumb questions, which is the beauty of being a podcast host. You get to ask the questions and nobody can tell you they're stupid. And even if they are and they think it's stupid, they won't tell you. So it's like,
and you can edit it out if you want.
And you can edit it if you want to. Yeah. Yeah. Although I'm kind of at the point now where it's like, you know, I used to do the and-ums and the ums and the like, whatever. And it's just like, screw it, whatever. It's just, you know, this is just me. So I don't do that anymore. But yeah,
if I didn't edit out the ums, this podcast would be an hour and a half long just based on me alone. So
I'm like, yeah, Warren, I want to go to bed. Warren. Can we stop talking?
So so that's the podcast. And yeah, it's just been a ton of fun. Had the opportunity to do some speaking off of the podcast. And then, got to do Disrupt, which it was our local Disrupt that I actually founded with the same two co-hosts, Patrick and Molly. We founded that a few years ago as well. And so this was our first event post-COVID here in December.
So
a ton of fun.
Yeah, we have not had a Disrupt event in my area in years. I did say next time they have one, I'll probably attend or or something like that. But I haven't seen, it's been years where, at least in my neck of the woods. So hopefully someone will kick that off again and do some of this. What I love about the Disrupt presentation is it's 5 minutes. You're not getting, and it's a pace 5 minutes. They're going, your slides are going with or without you. And I've heard, so I haven't seen, but I've heard some horror stories about that. But
I've seen them.
You've
I
seen
won't
them.
tell you who. We've had a couple.
But your slides are going at that 5 minute pace with or without you. And you're off the stage in 5 minutes. And you don't get to hear the fake bullshitty stories that, why HR is so important because their grandma on their deathbed said, go be the best HR person in the world's ever seen, and all this other things, the dumbest stories you always hear. Yeah, grandma. And you don't get a sales spiel out of it. I really like the format. And you get 12, 14 of them in a day, and with 5 minutes a pop.
Yep.
You're out of there in, less than 2 hours, after transitioning setup and things like that.
And you can drink when you do it. So it's a ton of fun.
Yes.
I'm way better after a couple bourbons. It's way more fun, as far as I know.
Hey, I think
there is
a
line.
I think everything's better with bourbon.
there is a line though. A couple bourbons, fine. Like several bourbons, yeah.
We're going to disrupt.
The real truth is coming out. Yeah, the real truth's coming out.
So, also about Rebel HR Podcast, it is a different animal than Jaded HR. People might actually learn something there, get some great advice, build their network. Basically everything you're not going to get here at Jaded HR. We're y'all are the nice, classy restaurant and establishment down the street, and we're that dive bar that, we got the bare minimum of the health inspector to be able to stay open.
I don't know if we're like fancy. I think we're kind of we're like Chili's or Applebee's level, right? We're like fast casual. You know what I mean? Like you could take your family there and you don't have to worry about like getting, food poisoning, but you probably don't want to take your first date there, right? Like that's a virtue signaling thing. And they're like, this isn't the guy for me. You know what I mean? That's how I would describe it.
I like it. Yeah. So, but you do have great guests. You do have very informative information, and you've got how many episodes? You just told me 2 minutes ago. How many episodes are y'all up to now?
Yeah, today I actually just reported 152. So yeah, it's been busy.
Nice.
It's been a good time. I finally got my intro figured out.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't memorized mine and been saying it for 3 years now. So anyways, the reason I wanted to have you on was your Disrupt presentation about 3 weeks ago. And right after I saw it on LinkedIn, I went ahead and I messaged you. I said, this is like the best. And I'm not trying to put down any other presenters on Disrupt HRs. There's some really good ones. Suzanne Lucas, our friend, has done some great ones, some of my favorites there. But a lot of them are, not to be disrespectful, they're the touchy-feely, go out and do your best. And, everybody loves you. Everybody will love you and all this kumbaya stuff. But this one was real. And it is being your true, authentic self in HR. And I think that carries a huge message because so many people out there have this expectation of HR. And first, hell, the three of us are breaking that expectation. We're three dudes in HR, where that's definitely not the norm.
We all have epic beards. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Mine is a little more white than either of y'all. So.
But you got hair, Kyle. That's the difference. You have hair.
Yeah.
You could have hair feathers. I can tell.
I could.
Warren, I don't think so.
No. Yeah. No. I'm chrome, baby. Get the bowling ball polish out, as that's what I've got.
There you go.
I do think it's legitimate, and it's what people in HR need to hear. Is I think so many people in HR, especially those who are just getting into the profession, they think they have to be that all things to all people, and the way to be a good HR person is to be that nice person who gets along with everybody and does things like that. So I thought it was just really telling. I think it's something that needs to be shared amongst the HR community very much. So what got you going? What motivated you? What brought you to that theme or your target, your subject for your presentation?
We'll be back after a quick break.
And so used to having everything in front of them right away that we forget that innovation just takes time. I myself, I get frustrated too. Why? And you know, this is being one of my best friends is, hey, I talk to you all the time. Hey man, I'm frustrated in the fact that I can't seem to just get there in the next day. But that's just not how these things work, right? Innovation needs to be planned out. It needs to be very methodical. And then when it finally hits, that's when it seems like to everyone else that it sort of just came out of nowhere. But to you, you know the amount of dedication that it took over that time.
Yeah, so it's my second Disrupt presentation. The first one was touchy feely, and honestly, I was like the warm up act for the legit speaker, Selena Pierman, who's awesome, and she had a great presentation at Disrupt. So I was like, I was just kind of having a good time. This one I wanted to take a little bit of a different angle, and what really the way I thought about it was, why did I start the podcast? To drive change in human resources. I mean, that's really what I was trying to do. That's the whole goal of what we're doing. And the other thing I wanted to do is take some of the key learnings that I think HR people really need to hear specifically for their own self-development that I've learned from guests. And there were a couple key guests in some of my podcasts that really reflected on the content that I put together. And so, so first of all, the best thing about my podcast is this is completely unintentional. It's like I get to learn some of the most cutting edge research, doctoral thesis, all these crazy smart people come on this podcast to talk to dumb Kyle about all the really smart things. And so it's I get to it's like I'm going through an MBA course and I'm not even paying for it. And it's super rewarding and enriching. But there's a couple guests that just really made a really big impact on me. And what I found is there was a common theme between those guests, and it's the guests that when you're talking to them, they're, I don't know, I could swear, right? They're fucking real, right? Like this is not bullshit. This person is telling me the truth, their truth. There is no question about what they are telling me and the amount of passion, energy, and integrity that they are telling me right now. And it's and I think, I'm guessing you guys have probably felt that too here and there. Every once in a while you get a guest and you're like, this person's fucking legit. Right. And so for me, it's well, so I'm trying to circle that in my head. How do I explain that to somebody else? And for me, my truth, what I actually wanted to be when I grew up was a musician. And so I was and then I was you know what? Fuck it. I started this. I'm the founder of this. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I was well, I'm just going to play guitar and live out my failed rock star fantasies on stage, and nobody can tell me I can't. Right. So it's so it's a little bit of self-aggrandizing, whatever, ego. But then a lot of it was how do I translate that into something that somebody can take away? And so what I did is I took that music, which for me is truth, to the point that I have a tattoo with a microphone that says truth on my arm. And how do I convey that to people in an HR setting? And so the way that I thought about it was, okay, certain people play certain types of music. Certain people love certain types of music. Certain people are just naturals in certain genres of music. You're not going to take Jimi Hendrix and make him go play Hank Williams Jr. Although he could, it would be weird for him, right? I'm not going to go play classical music, and be a virtuoso at classical guitar. That's just not. So it's that was the first thing. And you think about that, it's as I think about genre, for me, it's industry, it's company, it's team. It's are you in the right genre? Is it just the right fit? And then it's that's the environment, right? But then it's about you. So it's how do you interact with your environment, right? Are you faking it? Are you just full of shit and acting the way that you need to act? Or are you authentic? And for me, and I don't get into this in the Disrupt speech. It's only 5 minutes. I don't have time to get into it. But for me, the personal story of that was firing somebody, right? And I used to be the correct, quotation, correct HR professional. When someone was stupid or made a mistake or violated a policy, which policy might have been stupid, I flipped a switch and I turned into like Mr. Robot, Mr. Compliance. And I was just a heartless, soulless HR drone. And I would just fire people. And it was a coping mechanism, right? It was like you were compartmentalizing an awful situation that probably made you physically ill, but you're doing it in a way that you've been told you're supposed to do it in. Like, don't show them too much emotion. They'll feed off that. Then they can sue you for it. Like that entire kind of HR industrial complex was how I was brought up, right? And I had a profound moment where I got to a point, I think, matured in my career. I kind of got fed up. And I actually empathized with somebody that I was firing, right? I was honest and open, and I listened. There's a novel idea. I mean, I shit you not. At one point, there was a running gag, like a contest for how quick can you fire someone at one of my companies that shall remain nameless. It was like, that was 15 seconds. Can you beat that? Like awful. And what I found though is when I exhibited the traits that we should all exhibit as humans, that it was better. And ultimately that person's experience was better. And ever since that, it was like a light bulb moment that like, okay, I can't flip a switch and become HR Kyle. I just need to be Kyle. Right. And I think, and that's really the underlying, message in this entire presentation is, be yourself, be human. That's what your organizations need you to be, not this mindless, compliance focused drone that, everybody hates, because HR's reputation sucks. Right?
Yes.
I mean, like,
it's an understatement.
Yeah. I mean, everybody hates HR. When I tell people I'm in HR, they're like, oh. It's like, now this is cool, Warren. Now I can tell people I'm a podcaster, right? But there's so many podcasters. They're like, oh, that's all bullshit. Like, no, you're not. Like, prove it. And then I'm like, oh, look, I have 150 episodes. And like, oh shit, you are a podcast. So anyways, I have fun with that in bars. It's a good time.
Hey, I don't know if you heard, we're in the top 25 of all podcasts in Swaziland, and it's been for like 8 weeks now.
Whoa.
On Apple Podcast charts. Like, I've been reaching, please, Mr. or Mrs. Swaziland listener, get in contact. I want you as a guest.
Is that one listener? Is that one person?
I have
maybe
no
two?
idea. Patrick says, yeah. He said that it only takes, to get in the top 25 in Swaziland, it takes like 2 downloads, is what he was saying to me.
Swaziland. I love you, Swaziland. I am spreading the gospel to Swaziland right now. Keep listening. Tell your friends.
Yeah, I think it's
give us a review.
But leave us a review.
Yeah.
So anyways,
that's amazing. Good for you. I have no idea what my stats are.
Oh, really? Oh,
no, I don't know.
We'll talk some more HR or more podcasting shop talk later.
Yeah, good
about this. So,
okay.
Anyways, so you really set yourself up good, and you've really set yourself up well, because I don't.
There's a better educational statement.
I'm not judging.
I judge.
We did go to the same college, so it does make sense. We both talk like that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to ask where. It'll go down a rabbit hole, right?
East Carolina University. Go Pirates.
East Carolina. Okay. All right. I got no context for. I mean, they're purple, right? Purple and black.
Hey, at least you know that part.
There you go. That's all I got on that school.
Yeah. We can play baseball. We're okay at football. We play baseball.
Football team is all right. Listen, I'm an Iowa Hawkeye, so like I've got no room to judge. I mean, I think we set the record for the lowest offense and the highest defense this year. And if you ever want to see like the most boring game of your life, that's it. Like 3 and out defense. That was basically the entire season. So I got little trauma.
The sole reason why I want to go see a game at Iowa is I want to wave to the kids in between.
That is cool. The wave is cool. If anybody doesn't know, so they wave. The Children's Hospital has an observatory that can see into the stadium. It's Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. I went to school there.
It's incredible.
So it's
incredible.
awesome. And it's like all the fields, and they always wave at the kids up in the suite at the end of the first quarter. And it's like, you watch it and they always show it on ESPN and stuff. It's just like, there are literally kids waving in the window who are like hospitalized and dealing with some serious medical issues. It's a really powerful moment. So not to get sentimental on you, but
no, that's something fabulous.
Yeah.
But y'all also have, or at least in the 90s, had wrestling as well out there.
We're number 2 right now. We're number 2.
Yeah.
We're getting in there. Brant's Brothers.
A little bit of wrestling. Well, anyways, I'm great at no subject and just meandering everywhere. But you set up your presentation really well. And
can I go? Hey, Warren, let me pause for a second. Let me go back for a second. So if you're talking about you being your authentic self during a termination situation, can you give me an example of what that actually means?
Yeah, absolutely. So just share the story without sharing the details. So that's what I'm thinking about that right now. But it was a situation where I had an employee who had been on multiple written warnings for behavior, and just kind of chippy stuff, right? Like kind of getting, rude with somebody else, not being super respectful, not, just not being a super great team player. But when you got this person one-on-one, you talk to them, you'd realize, this is actually a really genuine person. They just really suck at emotional. Right. And I think we all know those employees.
Yes.
But no, you cannot tell Gary to fuck off. Right. Like you got to, like, you can't do that in a workplace. You might want to, I might want to, but I'm not going to say it. Right. So, we got to a point where we went through the whole disciplinary action process. And I just liked this person. I mean, yeah, they were, they had their behavioral issues, but I just liked them. They were just, I could see myself as that person, or my buddies in that person, right? It was just like, it was somebody that I enjoyed. And so instead of walking down the script that I usually walk down, which was, well, we gave you this on this date, this on this date, this on this date, this happened on this date, therefore, henceforth, blah, 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 legalese, you're fired, bleed. I paused at the end of it and I just said, man, this sucks. I'm sorry. I really like you, but this just wasn't okay, but I hate this. And it was that moment of like honest, like connection with another human. That person just like, they were just like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, they just took complete and utter ownership. But it was also a point of connection where, they also shared that they were having some issues at home. They were working on it. They knew it wasn't okay. Thanked me for being open and honest about it. And like left like handshake, literally wishing the best. And, still see that person around town. I'm a pretty small town right now. Like, you can't be a jerk in my town, or eventually it catches up to you. You'd have to move like every 5 years. So it, that moment right there, that moment of kind of humanity and connection, it was pretty eye-opening for me. And it was also way less conflict than when I would just do it the old way. Right. So it's kind of like, so everything I was trying to prevent by doing it the way that the lawyers wanted me to do it was what happened when I did it the way that I should just authentically do it. Right. And I didn't say anything that would have got us in trouble. I just said what I was truly feeling in the moment in a way that allowed for some connection. Right. So that's maybe a little bit more context to what I mean by being, authentic.
Okay. I have a follow-up question on that. So do you think that if in your managing the person, giving their written warnings and maybe pips or whatever you did, if you'd been your authentic self with them at that point, do you think that maybe they would have reacted better than, oh crap, I got to deal with fucking HR again, and I'll sign this stupid piece of paper and get rid of them, things like that. Do you think if you'd been your authentic self with him at the earlier stages in the game, it would have made a difference later?
I don't know. He really liked yelling at people.
Okay.
No, I like to think they would have. But the other truth is, I wasn't the one delivering those corrective actions. That really the
Good.
person
You shouldn't be.
the person that could have been, making that impact would have been the supervisor. And and actually this is an interesting tangent. Like now when I think about things like training and development and like, how do I make culture better? Right? Like for me, it's like the stuff that HR does, like the actual tactical stuff that HR does matters so much less than how your leaders are out in the field. So all of my focus is on like, how do I get my team where they need to be? How do I get my leaders where they need to be? How do I coach them up? How do I prevent that situation from happening by trying to coach them on these types of habits and traits and activities? And that's hard. That's really hard. And I think that's, a lot of HR professionals who are hopefully listening to this for some reprieve, like hang in there. It sucks, man. You're not only trying to control employee behavior, you're trying to control leadership behavior and how they react to the employees. And it's like, you can only control so much. So like, just do your best.
That's almost the more difficult part, is controlling the management.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially when I tell people my job. So, VP HR sounds really cool, right? Like it's fun and I love it. It's a fun job, but a lot of my job is what I call ego management. It's like, listen, I know this wasn't your idea. So let's calm everything down and make sure that you think that it was your idea by the end of this conversation. Like that's like 95% of my job right now.
Like that.
It doesn't always work. I do have a big stick though. I can be like, fuck you, do it. So that helps. That does help a little bit now. I didn't always have that.
That's where the VP comes in.
Yeah. Unless it's a C-suite, and then, then it is a little bit more of a robust discussion.
Right.
But I think they're probably the ones that need it most. Like
sometimes. Yeah. Nobody in my current company ever, if anybody's listening to this,
absolutely
never have to deal with that. I'm only talking about past employers. We don't have any issues with that, as far as you know.
Yeah. As far as you know. I love it.
There's a little asterisk. I'm good at asterisks. I really like asterisks.
Asterisks, yes.
My favorite punctuation.
Well, due to some copyright restrictions, we cannot play what you did on Disrupt HR presentation, but you've graciously volunteered to go through the 5-minute spiel. So we're podcasting, you don't get to see the visuals, but I think this stands alone on its own. So Kyle, you can take it away anytime you're ready and just give us your presentation right now.
All right. So full disclosure, I have not done this for like a month and a half. So we'll see how this goes. But it's going to be better because it's Jaded HR. So we can do whatever we want. Okay. All right, here we go. Here goes nothing. She's a good girl, loves her mama, loves Jesus and America too. What did that do? Did you just have a feeling? Maybe you thought I sucked at singing, and why am I listening to this podcast? And that's okay. Music evokes emotion. What does HR do? We are also supposed to evoke emotion. But what emotion do you evoke? Are you Toby from The Office? Are you, oh shit, HR's here? What do I do? What did I do wrong? Side note, you probably do have a reputational issue. It's time to rebel. Little Billy Idol for you. The best musicians are rebels. So I ask you this. What genre are you trying to play at your organization? Here's a secret. There are only really like 5 chords that you need to play in order to play most popular music. I just played almost all music. The difference is how you play those 5 chords matters. Are you playing them like this? Or like this? So So you've got to ask yourself this question. Who are you as an artist? Here's an issue. Context switching is a problem. If your organization is asking you to switch from one genre to the next every few minutes, you are going to screw something up. You will get tired. On average, it takes people about 10 minutes to get back into a productive workflow after being interrupted. So you might be playing a sweet solo, and then some drunk asshole says, "Play Freebird." Side note, if you are a musician, you do have to learn how to play Freebird, or you will get beat up at the bar. So make sure that you know how to play Freebird. But the point is, you can't do it all. You can't play every single genre for everybody. You have to find the right genre for you. And you have to find the right band members to play that genre with you. Side note, always find the drummer. They are the hardest to find. Once you find your band, now you've got to deal with stage fright. Trying to achieve social performance is exhausting. But guess what? That's what HR does every single freaking day. We are on stage acting. Here's the trick. You can't fake it. You have to be authentic, and you have to be true even when it hurts. If you are constantly acting over and over and over again, it's exhausting. You will burn yourself out. How many articles have we read lately about HR fatigue? The problem is human behavior. When you constantly consider your actions, you screw up. You have to learn how to play your own music, or people will tell that you are not playing the genre that you shouldn't be playing. Here's a quote I love. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. That's a Mark Twain quote. And that's what we should all be striving to do. If we are faking it, we will fail eventually. When I started my career, I thought I had to play everything in C major because it's pretty and it's right. And it's like that corporate headshot with the shiny photo that everybody wants. But the truth is that I should be playing in C minor. That's just me. That's who I am. So ask yourself this. How are you doing? Are you playing the blues on a Sunday? Because that sucks. If you've got the Sunday scaries, if you dread going into work, guess what? You're probably playing the wrong genre. So do you need a bridge? A bridge is a contrasting section in music that gets people to go back to the return to the original material. Is it time for you to go back to your original material? Ask yourself that. Here's the thing. We can make a difference in HR if we are our authentic selves. Oh, by the way, close it out on a badass power chord and leave a lasting mark. And rebel on.
Awesome. Yeah. I really think the combination of the message and the music is what makes this presentation successful and what makes it a must listen to, must share. I encourage all of our listeners to go on the Disrupt HR channel. You can share that video. I shared it to all of our dozen LinkedIn followers the other day, and I wish I could put it up on Instagram where we have more followers. But it's something that really does need to be shared. I think too many people just think they have, this is the role they have to play. I'm in this HR box and I can't poke my head out or anything like that. And yeah, it's just really the real message that real HR people need to hear. And those who are getting to that point, you mentioned earlier, you were getting to the point you're the robotic person, but you felt like your career had progressed in HR that you got to the point where, you know what?
Screw it.
Yeah, this is screw it. This is what the legal the lawyers say I should do, but I know myself, I know my audience, I know what I can and can't say. And they always say you never say sorry in a termination. You never say sorry because that means you're admitting some sort of guilt or wrong doing or something like that. Figure it out for yourself. Know your audience, know where you're going, and play it by ear. Play to your audience and things, you be yourself to their audience, I guess you should say, more or less. So you don't want to necessarily kowtow to them, but just know the situation. You are a professional. And that's why you're there. And that's how you're going to progress in your career. So, Well, that's like the least jaded thing I've ever said on Jaded HR in 3 years.
Way too like inspirational, Warren. We got to change this tone. What the hell is going on here?
I don't know. But you did motivate me when I saw this. Like I said, as soon as I saw it, I shot you an email because I thought it was perfect. So
yeah, now it's released to the wild because it's like Disrupt doesn't have the copyright now, so share away. It's all good. Yeah, no, there's a couple of things as I was kind of going through that presentation, a couple kind of key points that I think we haven't really touched on, but like some of the research is really fascinating. One is the whole context switching thing, right? And it's like when I learned about context switching, which is basically anytime you switch your task from one thing to another, like the whole like multitasking myth, right? Like it totally screws up your flow. You can't get back into a flow state. It takes like 10 minutes. And that's like my job description, right? It's like, oh, this is no wonder I'm exhausted at the end of the day. So that was a really key takeaway. The other one, like for anybody that's on a Zoom call, was there was some really fascinating research done. It's doctoral research. And it's my episode called Making Virtual Work Work. But the research showed that like every time you're on a Zoom call, you're fake. You're acting because you're staring at your face and you're like, what does my face look like? And you're just like, and you just get so like you act like it's like when you're on camera, you're different, right? It's like reality shows aren't reality, right? Basically everybody's in their own like reality show hell every single day when they're on these like Teams and Zoom meetings and stuff. And it's toxic. Like it will completely exhaust you. That's why like when you sit on an 8-hour day of Zoom calls, you're ready to like go jump off a bridge because you're so freaking burned out and tired of light, but that's what it is. It's like your brain is not made to do that. So that's kind of the other point, right? But in the context of if you're constantly acting and faking and trying to be somebody else, it's the same exact experience, right? Whether you're on a Zoom call or not. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, that's perfect. I've unfortunately Zoom calls are going to be going forward. They're not going away. No. They're not going away. So many people fallen in love with them, and people still haven't learned. This is a meeting that could have been an email or something like that. If people actually read their flipping emails, that's another
podcast.
The opening line of our disclaimer: had you actually read the email? People don't read the email. And
going back to asterisks, I'll put like 5 asterisks in it, like action required, read this email.
Oh yeah.
And 6 if I have to. It really worked.
6. I'm going into open enrollment and I've already put together my draft emails and action required. You must do this regardless if you participate or not. And this, that, and come close of open enrollment, I'm going to get, I didn't know. I don't participate. I don't need to do this. Yes, you do. And I've said that 30 times.
Dude, I just wrapped that shit. God bless you. I got another 9 months.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, well, Kyle, this has been a whole lot of fun. I'm so glad you agreed to join us and share your thoughts on being your true self in HR. Tell everybody where they can find you online besides your awesome podcast, Rebel HR.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm probably most active on LinkedIn. It's Kyle, Kyle. My name's kind of weird. It's Roed. It's Roed. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Kyle Roed out there. But you can also, if you want to check out the podcast, it's at www.rebelhumanresources.com. And you can use whatever podcast player you want. But yeah, I would love to connect with anybody. There's a ton of really just super awesome people that I've had an opportunity to talk to. If you have any interest in some of those topics, I'd encourage you to check it out. But yeah, I just appreciate coming back on. It's crazy, Warren. It's been almost 3 freaking years and we started this thing about the same time. So this is just like, it's just like, all the feels. We're still doing it. We're here, man.
Yeah. There's been so many HR podcasts, even some that I really, really liked that have come and gone. Gosh, I can name the host, but I can't name the podcast right now. Sue and Whitney. I can't remember their podcast, but I loved it. And then they just released like a 10-second episode. We've decided not to podcast anymore. I'm like, type thing. And there's been some so many people come and go, and it's not for everybody. And it is, people don't know how hard of work it is to put a podcast together. So Yeah,
Well,
I think
you
it's
work
fun.
harder than I do. I'm a lot lazier. I outsource all my editing and stuff. So good for you. Warren.
We don't have the money for that. Yeah.
I'm just
we have
lazy.
enough
I'm
for,
like,
All right, that
I'll find
does
a way
it
to pay for
for
it
the
later.
Rebel HR podcast.
Give enough for
Big
like
thank
2
you
beers
to
right now, Warren.
our guests.
Yeah,
Follow us on
but,
Facebook at
speaking
Rebel
of which, I
HR
didn't mention
Podcast,
earlier,
Twitter
ways people
at
can
Rebel
contribute
HR Guy,
to Jaded HR.
or see our
You
website at
can leave us a review on your favorite
rebelhumanresources.com.
podcast player. You can
Views and
support
opinions
us on
expressed
Patreon,
by
like
Rebel HR
Callie,
Podcast
our
are those of the
original
authors and
Jaded
do not
HR rock
necessarily
star,
reflect the official
and you
policy or
can
position
contribute a story
of
or
any of the
tell a friend.
organizations
Those
that
are the
we
ways you
represent.
can help us
No
grow, and we
animals were
have
harmed
some new
during the filming
links in our
of this
link tree.
podcast.
So go ahead and do that, and I'll give you a sneak peek. I am working on an Etsy store right now for some Jaded HR merch. So
Sweet.
yeah, look at
Sweet.
Feather's
Etsy?
face there. Etsy,
Etsy.
yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
Can I
we'll
get
see.
like a bejeweled like wind catcher, like a Jaded HR wind catcher?
I will see what I can do. Haven't heard long yet, but if you go on Etsy, there is a Jaded HR store. I think it's got like 2 things from Printify on it right now. So yeah,
Wow. Even I'm learning something new today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I am checking that out.
so-
I do not. I'm going to have to get an Etsy account, but I will check that out.
sell some merch. Yeah. While we wrap things up, I guess our best practice for today is be a rebel and be true to yourself in HR. Our intro and outro music is Devil by the Devil by the _ Orchestra. And old Andrew Kolpa, if I could speak today, is the voice artist who does our intro, our disclaimer at the beginning. So as always, I'm Warren.
This is Feathers.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're here helping you survive HR one what the fuck moment at a time.